Hi guys, welcome back to QBT. Oh, and hi Layla. This video is for you. Hope you're doing well, and hopefully this clears some stuff up for you. Let's talk about energy transfers and energy stores. Okay, so what's an energy transfer and what's an energy store and how do they work together? Okay, well, essentially, depending on the exam board that you're doing, and you will have to go away and look at it for yourself, I'm covering the edexcel iGCSE because that's the one that I teach. Okay, but an energy store is kind of a modality of energy, okay? There's 8 energy stores, right? And I'm going to talk about those in the tutorial video that's coming up. And there's 4 energy transfers. So effectively what happens is when energy is moving between different systems, because energy is neither created nor destroyed, the first law of thermodynamics dictates it. So, okay, energy is effectively moving between different modalities, these stores, okay? And when it moves from one store to another, a transfer takes place, right? So when I clap my hands together, I've got a chemical store in my muscles that's going to a kinetic store when I move my hands, that's going to sound, well, excuse me, it's going to another kinetic store actually via radiation, via sound. So that's kind of how you have to think about it. It's store, transfer, store, transfer, store, transfer. Okay, so we're moving between different energy stores via one of the 4 transfers. Okay, so in order to help you understand that a bit more, why don't you just look at this tutorial video here, and it will help you describe the stores and transfers and link them together with an example, a couple of example questions actually.
Okay, so let's discuss this question in a bit more detail. Let's talk about what the 8 energy stores are and what the 4 energy transfers are. Okay, so let's divide our page into stores and transfers, make it nice and tidy. And the 8 stores are as follows. We have chemical, we have kinetic, gravitational potential, I'm putting GP, elastic, okay, think about an elastic band, thermal, okay, thermal store, magnetic, think about how a magnet has a magnetic store of energy, electrostatic, and nuclear. Cool. Okay, so those are our 8 stores. But what about our transfers? Okay, and there's actually only 4 transfers. So we've got mechanical, we've got electrical, we've got via heating, by heating, okay, and finally we've got by radiation. Now, radiation actually splits into 2, where you've got by light and by sound as well. So depending on the kind of transfer that's happening, if it's, say, you know, a bulb lighting up, then there's going to be light involved. So obviously when you're doing radiation, consider whether it's you know, a transfer that's occurring via light or sound, and that should give you a clue as to how to answer that question. But let's try and answer the next part. Okay, so we've got our 8 stores and we've got our 4 transfers, which is great. So let's get rid of this and let's try and answer the next part of the question. So the next part of the question says, describe the stores and transfers at play when you 1. Rub your hands together, and 2. Drop a mass that lands on the ground. So if any of you have ever rubbed your hands together, you know, particularly you've probably done it when you're cold, you rub your hands together nice and quickly and you manage to generate some heat, okay? So what's actually going on there? Well, let's break it down in terms of transfers and stores. So the first the first store at play has to be chemical, okay? Because we have chemical energy stored in our muscles, right? So that's chemical energy, and we can say that that is human, right? That's us. That's our chemical energy. And when we rub our hands together, that's producing motion, right? You rub your hands, that's movement. Okay, so that is a kinetic store. And that's happening, the transfer that we put here is happening mechanically, okay, because it's movement. Okay, it's a mechanical transfer, right? And then what happens after we rub our hands together? What happens to our hands? They get hot, right? We get thermal. Okay, that's our next energy store. Okay, and that transfer is by heating. Okay, so it is absolutely all contextual. And the best way to do these, the absolute best way to do these, where you have your store here and your transfer here, is honestly just to practice them as much as you can. And think about what's happening in the actual situation. It makes sense that the transfer from a kinetic to a thermal store is going to be via heating. So let's practice another one together just underneath here. So this one is where we are dropping, let's just get rid of this so we can give ourselves as much space as possible. We're dropping a mass that lands on the ground. Okay, so that's a different situation. So let's say that we've dropped the ball already, okay, and we've just dropped it from the moment that we've let go. So we're going to ignore the chemical transfer that's happening from the muscle to the kinetic transfer that's happening when we let go. I'm just ignoring that for now. So the ball is now in motion, okay. So what we have is the ball at a great height, okay, which means that it's going to have gravitational potential energy. So we're starting with gravitational potential energy as our store, and that's of the ball. Let's say it's a ball, mass, whatever. And as it's falling, it's going to be obviously moving, okay? So we have this transfer from gravitational potential energy to the kinetic energy store. And because it's a motion, it's going to be mechanical. Okay, that's a mechanical transfer, it's moving. Okay, so what happens then? Well, it's going to hit the ground. And what's going to happen when it hits the ground? It's going to make a sound, okay? It's going to make noise, right? So we see that it's going to make a sound, which is, again, it's kinetic, right? Because the sound is just the movement of particles, isn't it? Okay, so again, that's kinetic, and that is your sound, okay? And that is happening, again, that is mechanically. That is mechanical. And another thing that might happen is that you might get a bit of heat produced, okay? Very small amount of heat. So we might get a thermal store as well. And that might be a thermal store to the environment. And that's going to be happening by heating. Okay, so the best way to learn these, and I'm not a huge fan of them, but they are important for you to know. The best way to do it is just to practice them as much as you can. Okay, but I hope that this tutorial has helped you to understand them a little bit more. Just think about it step by step, think about it logically, and you should start to get it, okay?
Alright, so hopefully that's helpful. Listen, I honestly really hate this topic. It's one of those topics that isn't always very clear. You know, sometimes a transfer will be via radiation, sometimes it will be mechanical, and you think, well, why isn't it by this? It doesn't make sense. The best way to do it is honestly just to practice them. Go online, look at past paper questions, look at mark schemes, try and understand why the transfer is what it is. But I have found the best way to approach these questions is to really think about it step by step. Right, what's happening in the beginning? What's happening now? What's going to happen after? Okay, what's the final transfer going to be? What's the final store going to be? And if you do it like that, step by step, and you slow down, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to be just fine. Okay, so guys, thank you for watching. As always, please like and subscribe. It really helps us grow the channel and helps us get more quantum content to you guys. In the meantime, please check out the rest of our content. We've got lots of series now. We're building up lots of content. But until then, I will see you next time. Okay, bye guys.